Good morning, everybody. This is Richard back at you. We got Miss Teresa on the camera. We got the one and only Annie hanging out and enjoying the day. I tell you guys, it's going to be a beautiful day here in Amarillo. We want to thank everybody for watching, but we got another project going on, guys. We just got rid of one, got another one going on, and more to come. We got Dwayne's 2004 Chevy Suburban all the way from Houston. I don't know what it is about Houston, but we do a lot of stuff from Houston, it seems like, huh, Teresa?
Well, right now, for some odd reason.
For some odd reason. This thing's got 322,000 supposedly original miles and never been touched. Dwayne just got this from his father-in-law that he bought it brand new. So could you imagine? But I looked under this thing. Now the tranny does work, but he's going to be start towing a small trailer, doing small jobs and stuff like that, or doing whatever he's going to be doing. And he wanted to get the tranny freshened up. He wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to have a failure. I don't know how with that kind of miles and stuff on it. So we got oil pan gasket we're going to be doing, rear main sealing covers. So we're going to be hitting quite a few places.
This didn't have a code in it?
It had no codes.
Okay.
Had no codes in it. So we're excited about that. Just oil leaks, high mileage. Don't want to be on the side of the road with that kind of mileage. So check this out, Teresa.
Preventative maintenance.
Preventative maintenance.
Okay.
Always got to believe into that. What I like about this is it's a two-wheel drive. We still got to remove the whole exhaust system on it to get the tranny out, but we PB blast everything. This stuff here, guys, really works really good on it. I PB blasted it last night, let it sit overnight, come back PB it again for a couple hours, and then we don't have to worry about snapping any of the manifold bolts off or anything. But I've already drained the oil. But you can just see how we've got oil everywhere on the pan gasket. You can see it's all up around the pan gasket.
Strong smell under here.
No, it does. Not coming out of the front seal of the timing chain cover, though. So we're just going to drop the pan. When we pull the tranny out, we'll put a new rear main sealing cover, new pan gasket, go through the tranny and make this vehicle really nice again. But, you know, for 322,000 miles, I mean, guys, it doesn't look like it's been out. It really doesn't. But I'll be able to tell you when I get this tranny out and start taking it apart if the tranny's ever been into before. I'm really good at that. Well, guys, we're going to get back over here. I
got to get out from it.
Teresa's about
Is it the PB blaster that I'm smelling?
You're probably smelling the PB blaster. Woo! That stuff's really strong.
It sure is.
But I'm going to get this out real quick, and we'll get it on the bench, and we'll be back here shortly. See, here we got the unit out of the Suburban, but this is why you always change the rear main sealing cover, because this gasket around this cover right here, the seal part gets hard and brittle, and actually you have a leak around the cover, and so not so much the seal itself. It's so nasty. But this gasket right here, I'm gonna scrape off. It's just brittle. It just flakes off. Same little piece right there. Just scrapes off. Just brittle. But we're gonna clean all that up. Pan's really bad too, so see what that looks like. Put the gasket rear main sealing cover. So anyway, 320-something thousand. Can't beat it. Okay, we got the pan off over here on the bench. Timing chain cover. Pan looks pretty nice. Wasn't nothing in the suction tube or anything. It's just all the dirt in the pan. You know, it's crazy if you guys would pull the pans off these LS and clean them out, they would probably never do that again. It's kind of crazy how they make that varnish like that. That takes a lot of miles to do it. Of course, we have a 10 millimeter bolts here to take this off. We tap a lot of turbos in right here and stuff. Oil coolers can go here. What I was getting to on this is it's got the factory gasket on the pan. It's still pop riveted to it. When you try to take it off, the new gasket, we got a Velcro over here, really nice, new cover. Cover comes with new bolts. Always buy it because nice cover and gasket, new bolts, and the Velcro pan gasket. So we're gonna get this cleaned up and it's gonna look brand new. Okay, everybody, we got the transmission out of the 2004 Chevy Suburban from Houston. We're really excited about that. 320,000 miles, I believe, on this. Now, you got to remember, he bought this off his father-in-law that bought it brand new. So, doesn't look like it's been out. I'm really curious to get in here. It's got the factory torque converter. If you're going to be getting a converter, you're going to be telling them you want a TMBX, which will put you right back into the ballpark where you need to be if you're replacing your converter, which we replace all of them. See here where the bushing's been rubbing a little bit of wear right there where the pump gear's been grabbing. If you notice, this converter could have been spaced deeper into the pump. It's just barely grabbing that pump gear there. Look at that. So we could have probably spaced it in, 100 thousandths or more to get that gear riding a little bit farther down in there. Fluid looks really nice and dark. Started the tail housing back here. So I'm mainly looking for signs of it ever being apart. Because 320,000 miles, guys, that's a lot of mileage. See your speed sensor there. Now this speed sensor counts this reluctor right here and tells the computer how fast you're going on your speedometer. You always want to look at these when you're rebuilding them. These are bad about ballooning. I don't know how they do it. It's kind of weird. But what they like to do, they like to balloon out on the end right here. See that ballooning? They used to be flat. I don't know how it does it. But then next thing you know, it'll actually, it's a magnet for sure. And I guess maybe the magnetic force of it constantly pulling on that brass right there causes it to go out, because you'll see these where they actually touch sometimes. Isn't that weird?
Mm-hmm.
Magnet, see? You would think magnet would be strong enough to dent that, but it definitely does do that. Now this is our little sleeve right here that keeps the dry shaft from leaking. Your yoke slides up in here, seals the yoke off where it can't leak any fluid out the little vent hole in the back. Like this. We have a seal right here. Pretty hard. I almost think I can break it. You always want to clean these out. These get really caked up in here. Put a new seal in there. And then when I put this back on, I do put a little bit of sealant right through here and in here. Tap it back on. You can get a yoke, put it on here to keep it straight. That way when you pull your yoke out, this will stay sealed right there really good and let it dry. We'll get the tail housing first. Or get our neutral safety switch off. I don't like damaging these. These are expensive. The only code this vehicle had in it was an alternator code. Kind of weird. Now he tied in 2 batteries on this thing. This didn't have 2 batteries in it to come out with, and he's got 2 batteries tied in there. So, but it does have a voltage code. I like to flip them up like that, grab a file. Because a lot of times the people that tighten this bracket down right here, it will flare this out right through here. You can feel that right there, and this won't slide off. You'll end up breaking it. So you can kind of get a file and kind of just knock those edges off right through here. It's going to be on both sides. Don't take much. That's it, it's still tight. You can feel it grabbing right up here on top. You don't want to break these. These things are very expensive. Anything's expensive now. I don't care what it is. But I don't want to run this through the wash machine. So I need to get it off. Get a bar and kind of just push right there on the, and push it off right there real easy. Once I get it off, I will clean. I'll get in here and really get after this. That way when I put it back on, it just slides on. Real simple. Real easy anyway. You notice the dowel pin stayed in the bell housing for the motor, which is no big deal. I could leave it like that and then just put it right back up there and it'd be fine, but I'll end up knocking it out, putting it back in the motor. Like I said, we already did a rear main sealing cover, oil pan cleanup, gasket change, all that type of stuff. Get the Servo out of here. Now, being that he's mainly getting this rebuilt, of course, it's for the mileage, but it's also because he's going to start towing a small trailer. So that's why he wanted to get in there. He didn't want to get stranded or anything like that. So we are going to put a Corvette servo in here. We're going to do the whole thing. You can see here how this piston's got tall, short. Tall goes into the cup. There was spring. You can see the difference in these servos. Which I'll clean all this stuff back up. They make a middle one too. They make one that's in between here that comes out in the Cadillac Escalades and the SS Trailblazers. It's called a mid servo, I guess you could call it. Like I say, he's going to be towing some weight, so we're going to beat this thing up quite a bit for him. We're also going to be, I forgot to bring it over here, but we also have a Sonex 4th gear servo over there that we're going to put in here. That in there?
I don't know. What? Ugh.
Yeah, that's some nasty looking stuff.
That's some nasty stuff. What is that? Ugh.
You can see your seal retainer right here. They come off real easy, but they do hold the seal in. Anytime I put my seal in, I glue it in with yellow 3M, and then I glue the retainer on. If you notice these tabs, they got a wide gap here, narrow gap here, so it does go on a certain way. You have to clock it. You got your lockup O-ring here. Really flat on the edge. Probably starting to set down low in the groove. Going to start leaking here pretty soon. If you notice here, it says PWM, pulse width modulating. In other words, this transmission pulses the lockup on, and this is a pulse width modulating pump. But we can go in here and block the valve body and do some work on this and make it a non-PWM. Since he's going to be towing, we definitely do not want to pulse the converter on. Oh, any fluid in that connector, Teresa? No, ma'am. There's no fluid in there. But high mileage unit, definitely getting a new harness. Got a little age on her. I did want to take this servo apart. I don't know if anybody's ever seen inside here. We do have another spring down in here. This little spring right here, if you have the early design, it's really bad about collapsing and being too short. And next thing you know, this pin will float because this spring can't keep the pin against that lid right there. So you always want to upgrade it to the late model spring that never collapses. The early ones, all of them come in, you'll be able to move that pin like that. And if that pin does that, it is capable of applying the band without the servo on. So, also, once you start taking this apart, this pin's not going to come out. You can see this has actually got a little bit of a flare on it now right through here, and it will not come out. So what I do, I just take a file and I just kind of go around this like that a little bit. It's not going to be a very big lip, but you can just kind of take it off like that. Just on the edge right here. You're not going to scar this or that. You just want to get it off on that little edge right there. Once you get it there, you can usually just tap it out. Then you want to come in here and take a file and take that little edge off right there. That way when you put this in the Corvette servo, you don't have to beat it in with a hammer.
So that's still usable?
Uh-huh. Oh. Yeah, that's still usable. You just when you go to rebuild this, if you're going to use this cover here or the servo, you don't want to beat it out and just scar that up because this cannot leak through here.
Why does it flare like that?
Just the force
Age or
just this washer sitting on top of it, the spring just sitting there wearing on it and stuff.
Okay.
Now, if you buy a shift kit, got my good screwdriver. Some of these snap rings are bare. There it goes. There we go. If you could buy a shift kit, it could come with 3 springs in here, 2 springs, a blocker, all kinds of crazy stuff can come in here. So what I like to do seriously is when I build this back and I put this in here and what I like to do is I like to shorten the travel of this cushion on this spring right here. Okay, guys. In other words, let me see if I can put this back together a little bit. When you put this back together, there's a gap between here and here where it bottoms out. Okay, and what I do is I put a washer in here. I'll put this in here like this for now. Let me see if I got a washer. If I got something that'll work real quick. Because it takes a special washer because of the pin diameter. But what I like to do is stick a washer in there, put the spring back in there, put it all back together, and put the snap ring and stuff in there. And what you're doing is you're taking up the gap right here that is going to be cushioned on that spring. And I don't want to take it all up because if you make this solid, you'll have a harsh downshift. But I can definitely shorten the shift by the pin travel. Okay. I need to do a video of that because that works really good on street racing or towing or anything like that because it just really shortens the shift when you do that right there. Like I say, you don't want to block it all the way because then you can have harsh downshifts. Filter's pretty nasty, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know what's crazy? It doesn't stink or anything. It doesn't smell bad, huh?
Mm-mm. I believe it.
Got our detent spring here. So what?
I said, oh, definitely. I would let you know.
Yeah. Like I say, you got your detents here and you move your shifter up on the deal. You feel that click, 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 click. This is what you're feeling here. You check that roller. Make sure it doesn't wobble or fix a breakthrough. If you have a 4-wheel drive one and you're out at the river and you're bouncing around and, you know, your shifter is capable of possibly moving, what you can do is you can take and cut the end off of one of these and double stack the spring part of it and just use one roller. And it sure stiffens up the detents on it a lot where your shifter doesn't bounce around if you're out at the river or something.
Who's done with mowing? Raise your hands. Me!
Well, we've been having really beautiful weather here, let me tell you.
Yeah, but I'm still done mowing.
What we do is we have our 3-2 downshift solenoid here, and then we have our PWM, pulse width modulating lock-up solenoid. Remember me telling you about that right here, PWM? We're going to leave this hooked up, but we're going to block this valve right here and make it a non-PWM where it just comes on and off. That's all we want it to do. We don't care about a soft lockup, towing a trailer or anything like that. You can do them on, I do them on every one. It doesn't matter. You have your O-rings here, 2 different sizes. Have our lockup solenoid here. So we got this whole harness right here. So we were just take it off. Now this is the better pillow switch here. The earlier ones, it didn't have a cover on the circuitry board, so a lot of trash could get in there and short the circuitry board out. where you notice these here, all you're seeing is the pillow switches. These are little tiny micro switches. They click when you push them. Tells the computer what gear the transmission's in. You remember these things, the computer has to see a lot of information to make these things work, especially lockup and stuff. They have to go in a closed loop. They have to be at a certain temperature, all that kind of stuff. We have our pressure control solenoid here. They do make two versions. They make a side clip where the clips on the side, or the real early version, it slides on the back. Like I say, I'm looking for any signs of this thing being overhauled. And so far, I haven't seen it. Original plastic piston. That tells you 320,000 miles with the right person driving it, with the right maintenance, these things can last. Plastic piston. Like I said, we'll go back with aluminum here. These are really bad about cracking down the neck right here. And once that leaks right there, you have forward engagement issues. This right here basically cushions the drive engagement. And they tried to soften it up by changing the wave plates and the forward drum and stuff to get it a little bit softer. This tranny here, they added it in the 4L60, which is a non-computer controlled transmission except lockup. Well, this one here is totally computer controlled here. This little valve right here is the one you're going to be blocking. Multiple ways to do it. I've showed all kinds of videos how to block this valve. And they made multiple valves. So multiple style. Come here. There it goes. And this is the easiest style to block right here, actually. Just remember the small end goes in first and then the long end goes in. But all you have to do is drop two check bolts in this thing. Just go back to your supply. Put two metal check balls in there. And you're going to put this back together. Just like that. Oops. Normally I put grease on them to hold them in there. Makes it a little easier to stab everything. Maybe I can get it. Put that in there. Now you're going to take your end plug. Always turn the end plug over and look for the most worst wearing side of it, because these are bad about leaking around and causing issues too. So find the best looking side, stick it towards the valve, and now you're going to grab a screwdriver because you're going to have to collapse that spring a little bit, and then you're going to clip it back in there just like that, and now you just block that valve. It doesn't move at all. Simplest way to make this a non-PWM. You do want to take this solenoid out right here though, because if not, you'll break it. Just stick it to the side, and there's a valve and spring that's going to fall out. But just messing around with the valve body and stuff, it's real easy to break the end off that. But there's a valve and spring there that goes in there. But that's the easiest way to make that a non-PWM. Okay. Of course, we have our accumulator here for second gear. All original stuff, plastic. And we are going to go with a new piston because the new piston, what I like about these are they made the shank longer. It gives the piston more support for keeping it from rocking. Look how short that one is. And also these really crack down the sides and stuff. So now you got a really nice piston that works up down. You always want to Scotch-Brite this stuff though, because when you put a new seal on there, it'll try to kind of what I call squeaking it. It goes instead of just working up and down smoothly. Since this is so shiny, the new seal tries to grab it and bounce going up and down. So you always want to Scotch-Brite this. That way the piston just slides up and down real nicely. Looks like original gaskets. Got our little manual lever linkage there. Trying to let's see if it's an aftermarket. No, that's original gasket. Wow. Plate looks really good too for metal balls and having that kind of mileage on there. Plate looks really nice. So here we have the fourth gear servo right here, or excuse me, fourth gear accumulator. Want to get that straight again. I want to point out something here that somebody said something the other day that I really want to point out to let them know what I was talking about, so maybe they'll see this on the video. Okay, you have your fourth gear accumulator piston in here like that, right? Fluid comes through here, comes on the back side of it and pushes this piston to control shift feel on your fourth gear band, okay? What you got here is, I'm going blind.
I don't know. What are you looking for?
I'm probably going blind. It's right in front of me. I didn't throw it in there, did I? No. My little black screwdriver. What the heck did I do with it? Didn't drop it on the floor. I put it in my pocket.
I have no clue.
I don't see it. But anyway, I'll show you this way. But anyway, you see this little orifice right here? Let me blow some air in there so you can really see it. Okay. See that little orifice right there?
Mm-hmm.
That little orifice right there sprays oil on the fourth gear, or excuse me, on the low reverse clutch area right through here. They get a lot of oil from sling off from the Planetaries too. But if you notice that orifice right there does spray on the clutches. Sprays oil right at it. So if you take and beat a check ball into this hole right here, like a lot of people beat that check ball in there, you blocked off that oil to spraying on those clutches right there. Okay? So that we don't do that. We always do a double stack on the piston. That way oil will always get to that orifice and keep oil on those clutches. Okay? And also, if you look here, this is your second gear and your fourth gear servo here. Do you see that other little orifice right there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that orifice right there sprays oil through that hole on the band. And that's what keeps the band lubricated. If that little hole was plugged up or anything like that, this band could burn up just because it's not getting any spray oil on it just to keep the band cool. So this band isn't applied all the time. You got to remember, this band comes on in second, comes off in third, comes back on in fourth. So you got your Z-Pack. What you do, you're going down the road, it shifts to second gear. The band comes off, your Z-Pack comes on for third. That's why it's called a 3/4 clutch. And then your band comes back on, the 3/4 clutch stays on, and then your band's used twice. But that's what that little hole's there for. And I wanted to talk about that because a lot of people don't know what that little orifice is there for. And why I don't plug that hole in the back of the case right there. And once you plug it, you can't go back. So you pretty much got what you got. But
Or start over with a new case.
well, yeah, if you want to put that back in there, because you'll try to drill beside the ball. You always want to seal these bolts, guys, especially down here where the pressure from the pump goes into the case. Always got fluid in here. See, when I pulled that bolt out, fluid just ran out. So if these seals ever shrink up, fluid can leak around the bolt and come out. You think it's leaking out the front. So you always want to change your seal and always put a little bit of good sealant on here when you tighten it down. That way you know you're good to go. And I don't know if anybody noticed this, but I'll tell you about this too. They do make 2 gaskets for the 700, 4L60, 4L60 on up. They changed it when they went to the 4L60, non-computer controlled, lock-up computer controlled only. Then they stayed with the same gasket all the way to the top. But the early 700 gasket did not have this, and they will not retrofit back. They will not go either direction. If you notice here, it says 13 vein, so it's going to have 13 paddles. Definitely got the factory GM pump bushing, or the pump bushing, stator bushing there, and stator bushing there. They're aluminum or Babbitt or whatever you want to call them. You know, we always go back with the brass, a little bit better. You see the scarring right here. When I clean this up, I'll look at that. Right now it just feels like nothing, just so visibly can see it. But look here, make sure your stator's not stripping. Looks really good through here. Got your lockup valve here and your pressure control stuff through here. Of course, we have a 13 vein paddle, 13 vein rotor. And if you look at this rotor, remember me talking about how it was barely catching the pump rotor, excuse me? I mean, just barely. We would have shimmed it, converter, back into the tranny to get that way deeper than that in there. This thing was just barely catching it. That's factory stuff. It lasted. Thank goodness. Don't want to have to put a pump in it. I wonder where that screwdriver went. Still haven't found it. We got our dual springs here. The later versions, they went to a cone spring where it's a single spring and it looks like a cone on the end, tapered in on both sides. Sonex does make multiple springs too, a lot higher pressure. Keep the pump where it's grabbing more fluid. It's crazy for this mileage. Wonder what fluid he is running in this thing. Like I say, this is a one-owner truck, guys, and it's never been out. I'd definitely like to know. We have our pivot pin here and our spring. You don't want to forget that little dude. Sets down in there and that sets in there. I mean, look at this. This thing just feels really nice. You can see stuff, but it's not where you can feel it or anything. Original GM pump bushing. I did, since Randall come by from Sonex, he talked to me about the pump bushings, to always use a Sonex pump bushing. So we do have a bushing kit, but we do have a Sonex pump bushing too we're going to be installing, because the clearances, the tolerance is so much better. You want to make sure lockup holds good, no converter drain back or anything like that. Always get in here and get that band anchor out of the band, like that. That way you can just grab the drum and pull it out. You can see your hole I was talking about. That little orifice is right there. Sprays right into that band right there. Keeps that band lubricated. And of course, this is your anchor. And of course, your servo comes to the side of the case. Comes on the band. Taking off. Shifts to second gear. Band comes on. Goes to third gear. Band goes off. Your Z-Pack comes on. Your Z-Pack stays on. Your band comes back on for fourth. The old band's getting the double duty. But, you know, when you got a wide band, look at the difference we're going to be putting in there. A lot wider band. This is one soft shifted dude though. Look at that. This drum, I guarantee, is in perfect shape though. Just because it looks like that.
Most of them you can kind of tell it's got a bulb down in there.
Find my little daily. One of these drawers, I think.
This one is pretty straight.
What did I do with it? What I must have moved it somewhere else. If this will show us anything. That looks pretty flat, doesn't it, Teresa? Look at that. Flat as a board. Look at that. The main thing on these too is you want to look for these fingers flaring out. They're bad about flaring out. And also you can get some really bad wear right through here where the shell runs. You want to look in that area. Of course, down in here, we have a big hole drum. They do make a small hole drum, so you got to be careful swapping parts where you don't put the wrong drum in there if you're replacing this drum. We have our bevel. Reverse clutches. So you want to look in here, make sure your sealing rings, where your sealing rings run. Replace these two bushings. Just be very careful when you're replacing this bushing right here. It's easy to get in here and tap that sealing ring groove. See that sealing ring is running right there. That sealing ring is running right there. So when you're cutting this out right here, it's easy to go up, drum run. So you don't want to do that. I've done it. I mean, because I use cutters on a lot of this stuff to get this stuff apart. Some of these bushings, you can't get in there and pull this bushing out. You can't get behind it, so you have to get in there with a cutter and cut that bushing down, and then come in here and bend it over and pull it out. And a lot of these bushings, they just don't come out. Let me tell you, and they don't make pullers for them. This little bearing right here is a real critical bearing. This bearing here can cause a whine in park and neutral, and you think it's a pump whining, but it's not. It's this bearing right here. So you really want to check that bearing. Make sure everything looks good there. You got all your sealing rings here for your forward clutch, your 3/4 clutch, your engine brake clutch. You can blow air in these and apply this clutch right here. The load springs are still in here. They feel really good. But boy, there ain't nothing left of them clutches there, huh? Is there, Teresa? Those clutches are almost totally stripped. Look, there's no teeth on them.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Wow.
But that's applying the 3/4 clutch right there. Then you get over here, you blow through the other hole. You can apply the forward clutch down here.
Why are those screwed up like that?
Or you can come over here and apply the engine brake clutch, which will always lift up on the other one too. So
sorry.
You want to look here for where your reverse clutch ends up cutting into here, your bevel. And look at it real good. So let's look at this clutch right here, Teresa, because I think we got a problem. This thing was fixing to go out after a few good loads on it with a trailer. This thing would have been gone. Actually, I don't even think it would have made it one trip. Seriously, there's nothing here. We have our load springs. We talk about, people talk about leaving them out, putting them in, leaving them out, putting them in, whatever. I always put them in, and I always want to make sure they're tall. If they're smashed down and they're even with the bracket, then they're junk. Throw them away. They have to be tall. If you put them in and you drop your top hat on there and the top hat don't touch them, if it ain't springy, then you know they're not tall enough. Here's our clutches. Let me drop this and get them all out of there. Some of them, there ain't no teeth on them at all. Now you can tell on the Z-Pack how wide that tooth ought to be on that clutch. Oops, totally stripped. It ain't even doing nothing. That one there maybe was hanging on there by his teeth. By his teeth. Look at that one. So we had a 6 clutch pack with only 5 of them working. So that one was totally stripped out. There wasn't nothing home at all on that one. So that wasn't even working at all. Steels look good. It wasn't burnt up. Get down here and look at our forward clutch. Like I said, it has to do with who's driving it. Because if I would have got this thing, I would have took that 3rd gear out on a test drive. That's your engine brake clutch. You notice we have a wave here. The early versions, the 700 R4s, the wave went against the clutch. Thicker clutches, that way it took up the clearance for the steel that you're getting away with. But on the later versions, they added a plate, then a wave to try to soften the engagement in the drive. And remember me talking about they added the accumulator here to help it also soften in drive. Here's our forward sprag assembly here. This is what we're talking about. Oh, excuse me. What am I doing? It's down in there still. I haven't got it. Actually, I got one over here. And this one I was talking about, it wasn't even home. It was just turning. So these are really bad about wearing right here. They use a brass brace on this sprag assembly, and they're really bad about digging in right here. This will wear a groove. Like you can't, I don't know if you can see it, but you can feel it. This big old edge right here. And now when you stick it on there, it locks it in and it won't slide side to side. But this ought to be able to move freely. Not so much like that, but that's how much is wore out. That's wore out. This one will be brand new. Another 30,000's gone right there. We're going to look at this, make sure it's not chattering or marks or anything. If it looks good, Scotch bright it up, put some new bushings in it. Just look at your sun gear, make sure there's no pitting or any odd wear on your gears there. Same way with this piece here. Looks good, Scotch bright it up, you can put it back together. I was hoping to see a 5-pinion Planet in this, but I knew better. And just because it's a Suburban. They only really put the 5-pinion Planets in the Cadillac Escalades and SS Trailblazers and stuff. So, let's see if I can find me a screwdriver. Hi. This one works really good. Now, if you notice, it does have a roller bearing here on this hub, where a lot of the early versions did not have a roller bearing. They had a thrust washer, which we were going to upgrade it anyway. We've already got the bearing and the hub here, new one sitting there. But these are really bad about wearing in here. See this? Watch this move. See that? That thing's almost totally stripped. And what it is this piece is hard as a rock. You'll never strip it. This thing is soft aluminum. So what happens is, see here, it's got the teeth are wore out on both sides, that side and that side. So the teeth are really thin. So that's why you get that. Next, you know, bang. But once they put the bearing in here, they added the tow haul mode to the shifter. That way you could tow in 4th gear a little bit. Without the tow haul mode, you couldn't really do it very well, because when you push the tow haul mode, what it does is it locks the torque converter up after 3rd gear instead of after 4th gear. That way the vehicle will get up to highway speed when it's kind of what we call direct drive, when the clutch is locked solid to the motor. If you come to a stop and forgot to push the clutch in, it'd kill the motor. Same aspects, but that's why you have the tow haul. Shifts to 3rd, locks the torque converter up, takes off pulling really solid because you're not hooked, stalling through the converter. Shifts to 4th gear, goes on out. Really, not a difference. A lot of people don't know that. Same here. You want to look at your forward 4-pinion. Now we are going to stick a 5-pinion in here that I found, and I'm going to upgrade it to. We're going to upgrade the forward plant to a 5-pinion. Get rid of the 4. Now he does it. Probably got a 4-pinion in the back, but guys, they've been putting a 4-pinion in the back of these trannies for a lifetime. 4-wheel drives, towing trailers, all kinds of stuff. So that 4-pinion Planet's a pretty stout dude. And we do have a shell here. I can't tell. I'd have to clean. It's a soft one. I'm shocked it's not stripped, because these break off or they strip. Whoever's driving this vehicle, it goes back to whoever's driving it again. Seriously, because they don't last this long. That and the fluid he was running, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to talk to this guy a little bit more and just see what he's doing. His father-in-law bought this brand new. Of course, we have our low reverse piston and spring assembly down in there. Takes a little tool to set down in there and get it out. Our parking assembly here. See here, locks into here. You ever put it in park too soon and you hear that? That's what you're hearing. This thing trying to go into here. Stop doing that. I say what causes these shells to break, guys, is that reverse stuff, backing up in reverse, throwing it dry before you come to a stop. You can see here we do have a wave here. This guy's not going to be doing a lot of manual shifting or anything like that. I don't see it, so we're going to leave the wave in there. Even if you take the wave out, reverse doesn't feel too bad because we have the bevel in this drum right here, softening up reverse too, because the reverse clutch comes on, this clutch here comes on, and then you back up. So you do have something to soften the cushion there, and of course they have something to soften the cushion here, but I don't see much of a difference by leaving that out. But if I'm manually shifting or building a race car tranny, this definitely has to come out, because when I'm in manual low, this clutch is on. When I shift it to second gear, my big old band's going to come on like a speed of lightning, and I want this clutch off before that band comes on. So if you leave the wave in there, as long as that wave is collapsed and it's releasing, it's still applied. So if I take the wave out, put a steel in there, no more than the piston moves, it's off. That band comes on with no issue. There's no bind up or anything like that. So look at the old sun gear. Make sure it looks nice and healthy. Both sides of your teeth there. Of course, the sprag assembly here, or excuse me, roller clutch. Roller clutch, sprag assembly. They both do the same thing. They let an item turn one way and will not reverse. One way, will not reverse. This does the exact same thing. Roller clutch, sprag assembly. They do make a narrow and a wide, and the narrow was in the earlies. This is a wide. If it was a narrow, we would upgrade it. Look at this race right here. It'll go either direction into here when you put it in. It doesn't matter, but you want to Scotch-Brite it up really nice. Make sure it looks really good. Of course, your old Planetary. Boy, this is one heavy dude. This is a good GM Planet right here. Though aftermarket you buy are just junk, guys. So you want to check these right here. Make sure there's no wobbling. Really nice and tight. Check that bearing down in there. After I get it cleaned up, I'll put this sun gear in there, and I'll put a load on that, and I'll turn it. If it feels really nice and smooth, and we're good to go. But you can catch that bearing being weak right there, because that is a problem with the bearing going bad. So, guys, not too bad for 322,000 miles, huh, Teresa? It's amazing. Like I said, I got to talk to this guy and see what type of fluids he's using. Because like I said, he bought this dude brand new. Unbelievable, huh? That's crazy to see one of these last that long. And his son-in-law was telling me he never serviced it, hardly either. Oh no, that even looks like the factory pan gasket. I'll take a picture of the mileage. I can't get the mileage to come up for some reason. I don't know why, but I want to take that, put that with the video too. Well, guys, we want to thank you for watching. We've been really busy here in the shop. That's why we haven't been posting videos, doing rewiring my car and stuff. Took me 3 weeks to get it done. So we really had to stay concentrated on that. But we're back to work again, huh, Teresa? I want to thank Miss Teresa definitely for recording. I want to thank Annie for always hanging out. And we want to definitely thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate that. Don't forget to go subscribe, push the notification bell, check the old merch store out and all that type of crazy stuff. But hey, till next time.